Hey guys, today I have quite a special video for y'all because I just got early access to a new Polybridge 2 build that has 2 new worlds in it. That though isn't even the big news because going over to the main menu screen, you can see that Polybridge 3 is now not only confirmed, but has a release date already set. At this time, we don't know too much information, but judging off this banner and also some of the press materials they sent over, it looks like they're completely revamping the art style and making it much more 3D. Now this is obviously pretty huge, and I'm excited to see what else they leak in the coming months. In this video though, I wanted to try being number 1 on the leaderboard for every level in the first new world. Now starting out level 1 here, I didn't really know what to expect, but already it didn't look too hard. In fact, this looked like the first level in the entire game, right up until I noticed where the checkpoint and the flag were. Now seeing this, my first idea was to try to build up a swing, and you can see I'm doing that here with a road and a couple of ropes. After I did that, I'm using a couple of wood pieces to try to brace it all together, and the reason I wanted to go with the swing is that it should be super cheap. Once I get that all supported up here, it seemed to be swinging back and forth fine, so to get the car over onto it, you can see next I deleted a couple of the wood pieces in the left support piece and I replaced them with roads. After I did that, I'm adding in a couple of road pieces, and once I got one in roughly the spot I want, I used some springs and some ropes to hold it in place. Now the entire purpose of this piece is just to break the car's fall right before it gets on the swing. And once I got that in place here, giving it a test, it actually did seem to work pretty well. The car would completely stop right above that swing, but no matter what I did, it always broke the moment it fell on it. Now, it's around now when I realized the full road on the bottom probably wouldn't be a bad way to go. You can see I'm adding that in now, and once I got most of it supported here, I'm adding in a couple of springs to hopefully dampen the fall a little bit. And while it was close to working, it did still break, and I realized that having that dampening road in from before would probably be a good way to go. At this point though, I thought that was super close, so I added in a single extra spring piece on top, and with this, now the car would get up and actually hit the reverse checkpoint, but its back wheel's getting a little bit stuck. With an extra spring though, and moving some stuff around a tiny bit, it managed to actually come back, and you can see here, it just manages to hit that flag. Now, I was actually pretty happy with that solution because I was $13,000 under budget, but I still managed to be last on the leaderboard. Now, I wanted to come back and see what I could shave off, and the easiest thing I could think of was actually this top bridge. I had way more support than I needed since it was originally designed to support that swing on the bottom, so after changing that up a bit and actually just moving in a couple of extra pieces, I managed to get it down about $8,000, and with just those simple changes, I managed to be number 1. Now, that was a great start, and I was hoping to continue that trend here on level 2. This time, you can see the checkpoint star, and I also have the flag way further down. Now, I tried just letting the car jump off the end here without any supports, and it's actually pretty close to hitting that star. My first idea here was just to build up that loop, and you can see now I'm using a lot of steel, and while it is expensive, I should be able to shave that off later and replace it with wood. Once I got that basic design in place though, I also used a single wood piece just to ramp up the car a little bit more off the end. That actually lets it get inside the loop, but now I need a way to guide it down into the flag. My first idea was to add in a road here and also some steel pieces to hopefully hold that together. Now trying this out, it does break as soon as the car hits it, but at the very least the car does hit the flag, and that really wasn't too bad at all. My goal though was to do this with nothing breaking at all, so you can see here I moved down that road and I replaced the steel with springs. That should dampen the load a lot, and with this I nearly got it in, but it just barely managed to scrape past that flag. But you can see now it just moved in the bottom piece of that road a little to the right, and with this I managed to beat the level, but I really wanted to get my budget down a lot more. Now my first idea here was to simplify the support I had on this first road piece. After that, I also started moving around some pieces on the ramp here, and giving this a test now, the car managed to go over that ramp into the loop and come back. You can see here though, something interesting happens because the car hits into that ramp and falls down and completely stops. That I thought was probably going to be good enough to have it fall straight down onto the flag without any other help. Now of course, this is going to be a massive cost save, so you can see here I deleted off all of these springs in this road piece, and it actually seemed to work. The car fell down, hit into that flag, and with this, I managed to beat the level with only $24,000. That's going to make me number 1 for unbreaking, and with with this, I wanted to move on to level 3. This one's quite a bit harder than the first two, and you can see here the car slides down the first slope, and after that, it jumps off the end here and goes into this first rocky area. Now, I noticed that the car was getting stuck there, but I also didn't want to spend a lot of money trying to build a bridge to go over it. That's when I got the idea just to lay a couple of road pieces on that rocky area to hopefully guide the car over. Now, you can see trying this out, on my first try here, it actually seemed to work, and the car bounced over onto the ramp and got its first star. That was an extremely good start, and you can see next now, I'm starting to build up a ramp to hopefully guide the car back down this ramp. Now, it seems like what I'm gonna need to do here is have the car be upside down, sliding down the ramp. And to get that to happen here, I tried messing around with the geometry, but no matter what I did, the car always seemed to fall back on its wheels. You can see now, I even tried using a spring to dampen that load, and while the car barely managed to fall on its hood, it still fell back on the wheels, but that's when I noticed that it tumbled once again, and now I was actually starting to slide down. That really wasn't what I had in mind, but if it works, I guess it works. So now I'm just gonna need to build a road on the bottom to get up to that flag. Now, starting out here, I just tried to figure out where it was gonna land, and after that, I built up that road all the way along the bottom. I was trying to use as few pieces as possible to keep this as cheap as I could, but it seemed to get a little too cheap, because trying this out now, the car was on a very bendy road. Now, surprisingly, just adding in one reinforced road seemed to actually fix that problem, and with this, now just gonna need a ramp to get all the way to the top. Now, to build this here, you can see I just used a couple of road pieces on the bottom, but I'm also using one on the top here to guide it back into the flag. Once I get this all braced up on the bottom and used a couple of ropes to support it, trying this out now, while things do break, I actually did get the car on top here, and I was getting very close. Now, trying this out again, I braced the bottom of it better, and you can see now the car does manage to hit the flag, but some stuff still does break on the top, and I really wasn't super happy about that. I also noticed, though, that I was like at half the budget of the person above me, so as long as I managed to reinforce that, I was in pretty good shape. Now, really with not too much trouble at all here, you can see I pulled out a couple of wood pieces, and with this, I managed to beat the level with $20,000. Now, the first few levels did feel pretty easy, but this next one is where things definitely got turned up a lot. For this one here, you can see we have this massive boat in the way, and the truck needs to get across. Now, it felt like I was gonna need to build over it, and I started to build that up with some springs here, but it was really hard to support this, and the truck really liked to just break it apart. Now, I was wondering if I could cheese this level at all by trying to go through the boat, but the boat's just so thick that I realized there's really no way to make that work, and instead here, I built up an arch, and you can see now I'm starting to support it with some wood. Now, the arch is a pretty good shape because it should distribute the load quite nicely here, but it's also very steep, and trying to get the truck over it now, you can see it falls over right on the bottom. Now, to hopefully stop that, I used a few extra road pieces on the bottom to guide the truck onto the ramp, but even this was a little too steep, but it would still barely fall over. Now, it took a tiny bit of lowering of the road, but with this, the truck did actually get on top, and you can see now it's going over to the other side. This put a lot of force on the other side of the bridge and did break it, but at the very least, I finally managed to beat it, and now it was time to shave it down. Now, I started out by trying to support the right side a bit better, and you can see the way I did that was just copying over some reinforced roads. Once I did this, you'll also notice now there's a lot less wood pieces, and that's because I'm using those ramping sections as supports. And you can see now it's just a couple of extra wood pieces. I managed to get the truck over, and nothing seemed to break. Now, this was a good start, but the bridge was still quite a bit more expensive than I was going to need it to be, so I was going to need to shave off a lot of money. Starting out, one thing I realized that I could delete a couple of these pieces on top and save a little bit of money that way. The much bigger save I realized after quite a while, though, is that I don't need a lot of the roads on the right side anymore, and I can just use wood supports. The truck's going fast enough, it should be able to ramp off the edge here, and you can see now I'm using a lot of wood to get that all supported. After pretty randomly doing this, I actually managed to get under the budget, and with that, I got number 1 on that level. Now, I'm skipping over level 5 here, because it was kind of boring, but level 6 here was one of my favorites. You can see starting out, I'm building up a very cheap bridge on the left here, and I'm trying to support it as little as I can. Now, after doing that, I also used a single road piece on the bottom here, and it's just laying across the ground, and it's preventing the van from getting too close to the bridge. That allows the truck to push it further back without it getting in the way of the bridge, and you can see there, it ends up hitting its flag. That's a good start, but I still need a way to get the truck all the way up to the top, and to do that, I was thinking of just using a dangling road. This, of course, is going to be super cheap, but I really wasn't sure if it was going to be able to support the weight of both cars. Trying this out now, though, it actually seemed to be doing the trick, and I was pushing the van up quite well. Nothing seemed to be breaking, and it was only until the last second the excavator ended up falling backwards and breaking the bridge. Now, I tried using a rope to support up the bridge a bit better, and with this, it actually helped out a lot, and with just one extra road on the top here, it was able to get to the top, and that beat that level. And I wanted to move on now to level 7. Now, I just wanted to test out this level at first to sort of see what was going on, and you can see that all of my supports are moving up and down quite a bit. Now, I kind of was assuming that at first here, the truck would be able to get across on these moving bridges, but even after I supported these up properly, they're totally out of sync, and the truck just falls straight into the water. Now, I was thinking while it might have been possible to use the moving bridge if I delayed the truck somehow, I had a much better idea. You can see now I'm going back down to this bottom piece, and I'm building up this diamond sort of shape. Now, by doing this, it creates a node right on the rotation point, and while there isn't an actual attachment point here, as the bar is rotating up and down, you'll notice that this one piece is staying completely still. This means that I have a piece that is completely stationary that I can attach my bridge to. And of course, I did this on both sides of the bridge, and after that, I built up a simple arc here and started to build it up. Now, I was using a lot of steel, and this was getting quite expensive, but I was hoping just to get the basic shape in place before I started shaving any budget. And with quite a bit of difficulty here, a little bit over budget, I did manage to beat this level, and you can see that bridge is staying completely still. Now, I just started shaving as much as I could and replacing it with as much wood as possible. This got me pretty close here, and you can see it's $63,000. I was pretty easily shaving down my budget a lot. To get that last $9,000 though, I just pretty much kept doing this, and you can see my final bridge here. That actually does look quite a bit different in my opinion, but really it was just a slow process of adding more wood in, and pretty much just ended me up here. But if you thought that level was pretty gimmicky, this one's quite a bit more. Now, I think there's another level like this in the main campaign, but you can see the idea is that I only have springs that I can use as supports. For this, I knew I was gonna need to use the rocks a lot here in order to get anything stable, and once I got something built here, you can see it's very unstable, but it does manage to hit that star and fall down and hit the flag. Now, surprisingly, nothing actually broke. It just managed to fold in on itself, and with this, I was okay, but it was still way over the budget I was gonna need. Now, my main problem is just that springs are so expensive that there's really no good way to use them, and I was kind of just thinking that it might be possible to exclusively use road. Road is actually kind of expensive as well, but it's definitely not as expensive as springs, and since it can't fold, I could use a lot less of it to support the bridge. This meant that for only $24,000, I managed to get the car all the way over to the other side and beat that level. Now, I'm skipping a few more levels here. Now, on level 12 next, and you can see this one is pretty interesting. I'm gonna need to get this checkpoint on top of the hot air balloon, and then all the way over on the right side. After that, I somehow need to get back, but I didn't see any reverse checkpoints, so that was pretty interesting. Now, I figured that the obvious start here was to try to get the checkpoint on top of the hot air balloon. This was pretty easy to do, and after a little bit of tweaking, I finally got the car to jump up there, but after that, it just sort of fell straight down on the bottom. Now, my next thought was to try to get that stop checkpoint, and you can see the way I'm doing that is using a road on the bottom as a catching road. Once I got that in place, I tried building up a simple ramp up to that checkpoint, and while it looked like it was about to fall off the back there, it managed to stay on, and with that, it started to roll back. Now that rolling got me an idea, and I was pretty sure they turned off all brakes when it's going backwards. So my plan was to build up a simple road here, and you can see it's able to swing all the way back before hitting the stop checkpoint and going back to the flag. This was surprisingly close, but I did have a few breaks, and I was also $8,000 over budget. Fortunately though, I was pretty close to the solution, and while I didn't really do any specific thing that pushed me over the edge, a lot of random changes later actually did get me there, and I managed to beat that level and get number 1. Now, the next level I wanted to show here is level 14, and these later levels are definitely getting quite a bit harder. You can see here that there's a bunch of planes, and I'm gonna need to get the limo on top of the bus somehow. Before that though, I'm gonna need to build a simple bridge here, and you can see to do that, I tried building a simple tension bridge. This seemed to be holding together pretty well, and it was right about half the budget I was gonna use. Now, with that in place, my first plan was to figure out a way to drive the limo onto the bus. This just seemed like a pretty easy way to go here, and starting out, I used a road right at the edge here to try to get the limo to get on, but it always seemed to get stuck right on this lip. Now, I even tried using some sort of rotating roadway to guide the limo down, but it still just seemed to break, and it ended up getting hit by the plane very often. That got me thinking though, and I realized that if it got enough weight on the limo, I should be able to pull it down onto the bus. This seemed pretty easy to do as well, and just adding on a few roads to the front here, you can see I was getting a bit of movement. With just a few more roads, I did get it to fall down, but it took a little too long and the bus was already gone. Now to delay the bus, I was actually thinking an easy way to go just be to add in a single road piece and have it fall right on the front. With this, it takes a little bit of time for the bus to push that off to the side, and it's just enough time to get the limo onto the bus. This also broke the entire bridge though, so I had to brace up the left side of the bridge much better. Now it was clear to me at that point I was probably doing something wrong, and a better way to go here is build up a very simple road on top of the bus. This lets the limo drive straight on it, and with that, you can see here limo's able to get on its top platform and the bus is able to get over as well. Now this was my first completion here, but it also was very over budget, and I was gonna need to get this down quite a bit more. Now of course, I had a lot of extra steel pieces here that I pretty easily could convert right back into wood, and I also had a few extra cables as well. This was kind of an annoying bridge to tune down, because I had to get the weight just about perfect, but you can see here, under $30,000, I managed to beat this level, and once again, I got number 1. And now, probably for one of the hardest levels in this campaign, you can see here, we have this buggy, and it needs to ramp all the way up to the star, and then get all the way back over to the flag. Now, to do this, at first, I knew I was gonna need some sort of ramp in the front, but the sailboat was causing a lot of problems. It meant that I was going to have to do this in 2 separate segments, and that meant I was using a lot of steel. Now, once I built up that steel there, I also built up a road on the other side, and this is to catch the buggy to guide it back into the flag. Now, I went through a ton of changes here, and you can see the final bridge I ended up at looks nothing like before, but it's the same basic idea that the car falls on it and guides over to the flag. Now, with this, I actually was under budget, but I was also bottom of the leaderboard, and I realized I was gonna need to beat $8,800. That seemed about impossible since I'm going to shave over 75% of my bridge here, but I wanted to try giving it a shot by deleting off some of the steel pieces and replacing them with wood. This of course gets me a lot closer, but I also noticed something interesting here. Rebuilding this bridge, I was going to try to do it as cheaply as possible, and you can see now I'm using a single wood piece over to the main island. With that, I also used a couple of ropes to support it, and I noticed the buggy was going a lot further than before. Once I saw this, I added in 2 springs and a single road piece, and that was enough to get the car over the flag with only $11,000. Now, I knew at this point I was definitely close to the solution, but I still had a lot of budget to shave, and there just wasn't a lot of pieces to pull from. My main idea to save budget here is to lead off this massive chunk of wood, and once I did that, the car was surprisingly close to ramping off it properly, but it seems to swing back and forth a bit, and that causes the car to get on at the wrong angle. Now, to solve that, I added in 2 wood pieces, and you can see by doing this, it totally changes the weight distribution and it no longer swings. Now, it wasn't exactly this easy, but it was pretty close to it, and you can see with that, I managed to get over to the other side with only $7,800. And with this level done, I actually thought that I was going to be done with this entire challenge, but looking back at the leaderboards, I noticed that some of my scores had actually managed to fade away. Specifically looking at level 4 here, it seemed like some cheese Diablo guy managed to pass me, and I was going to need to shave off a bit more budget. Now, fortunately, he didn't beat me by that much, and I did know I had a little bit of life left in this bridge to shave some budget. And I started off on the left side, and while I shaved a little bit of money, it really wasn't all that much. I could tell here it was definitely the right side of the bridge. I had a lot more to shave from, and I started pulling in some wood supports. Now, this was surprisingly annoying to keep pulling these in, but after not too long here, I managed to get down to $19,940, and that was enough to just barely pass him. Now, coming back to level 2 here, I also noticed he beat me now, and it was by quite a bit, so I was gonna need to shave off a lot of money. Now, my first thought was to delete off all of the steel supporting this ramp, and you can see here, I'm using a lot of wood braces to keep it all together. This took a lot more wood than I was expecting, but since it was a fairly unoptimized bridge, there was a lot of room to move. Now, I also tried pulling in some supports here, and you can see after not too long, got it down to $22,000, and just managed to pass him. Now, finally here, I don't know why I did this in reverse, but you can see I came back to level 1, and this time, not only did he pass me, but Minecat also passed me, so I was gonna need to do something about that. Now, the amount that they passed me by was enough that I was concerned I was gonna need to do some pretty big revamps here, but you can see at first, I tried just shrinking pieces down and also replacing normal ropes with wood ropes. These are a lot cheaper, and with this in place for only $16,800, I just managed to squeak in front of Minecat here, and that managed to beat that level. And with that done, I finally had number 1 on all 16 levels. Now, I'll be showing all of my solutions now, including some of the ones I didn't build in this video. But of course, guys, if you want to stay updated on Polybridge 3, make sure to subscribe. If you have any other ideas or anything else you want to say, make sure to leave down in the comments below. And otherwise, till next time.